What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Narcolepsy Boy 94, aka Malik, here with Rated M Wrestling, aka Mo. Two people part of the No Name Wrestling podcast, which you guys can check out. We'll put the link in the description below for the pod. Make sure you guys check it out. Today we're gonna do something a little fun. We're gonna be doing a WrestleMania draft. What does that mean? 10 selections from each person. 10 matches by me, 10 matches from Mo, and we're going to let you all decide who has the best draft overall. So we're going to try our best to draft the 10 best matches that we can possibly get that we think would help us win, and you guys decide, who you feel like, has the better draft. Obviously, it's going to be me, but,
Big cap.
Nah, it's definitely going to be me, bro.
Big cap. Especially if I go first. Oh shit!
Taking the old head stuff. You can have the Ricky Steamboat and Macho Man. And
are we hating, bro?
Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant. You can have all that.
Come on, we not rocking with Hogan Warrior though.
Well, that's gonna be one of mine if I can snag it. That's gonna be one of mine.
All right, respect.
If I can snag it, that's Ultimate Warrior's best match in WWE.
That's fair. It's not crazy to say at all.
So determine who goes first. We are gonna do rock paper scissors. You want to do best 2 out of 3 or just straight?
We can do 2 out of 3.
2 out of 3? All right.
Yeah.
I guess I'll do one over here. You ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Scissors, you got paper. You ready?
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. All right. That's 1-1.
All right. You ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
You gotta go fast, bro.
Right.
Like rock, paper, scissors. You ready?
All right. Rock, paper, scissors,
shoot.
I'll take that off. 2-1.
All right. So I'll get to go first. I'll have the first pick. So my draft is going to be based off of storyline builds and match quality. That's how I usually rank my drafts. There may be some matches in here that have better match quality because I'm not going to take a match that has a great story and a bad match. But majority of the matches that I'm going to take are going to have elite storytelling with really good matches in between as well. So for me, my first pick is not going to be what you think it is. It's not going to be Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania. I'm going to take, possibly, after truly, really analyzing and thinking about it, like if you really break down the moment, the story build, the impact, the aftermath of what it did for a lot of things leading, I'm going to take Roman and Cody 2 at WrestleMania 40. I think that's the greatest WrestleMania main event of all time. Maybe the best WrestleMania match of all time, if we're being honest. Like, HBK and Taker is a better belt-to-belt in-ring match, but if you think about the story build, the impact, the moment it provided, this is one of those matches that really needs the word cinema attached to it, because it truly was that. And I feel like Roman versus Cody 2 is a match you had to be alive to watch in real time. Like, you had to be there in real time to watch it to understand how special it was. This is a match you're going to tell your grandkids about. You'll go and tell, hey man, you got to go check out this match if they become fans, and then they'll be able to watch it, but they won't understand what it meant in that moment to watch it live in person. So counting everything that I just said, I'm going to say Roman and Cody 2 is my first pick.
That's fair. Yeah, especially with your criteria. Yeah, that'd probably be my first pick too. But when I pick matches, I simply think about the match quality and how good the match is. I do also think about how important the match is as well, but that's just how I look at matches. So for my first pick, I go with, to me, the best WrestleMania match of all time, Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker at WrestleMania 25. I think bell to bell, I don't think there's a WrestleMania match better. I just think everything for that match just worked perfectly. Like, even the botches added to that match. Like when Undertaker dives out of the ring and Sim Snuka doesn't catch him. That adds to the match even more. And just, I feel like the environment and the people that were in it was incredible. And I think even if you think about the aftermath, that whole match led to 26 and then led to 27 and 28. And that whole 4-year story, it all starts here. And I think it's the best, to me, it's the best WWE match of all time. But yeah, I'm going HBK Taker number 1.
All right, that's a fair match to take first. So for my second pick, I mean, it's only right. I'm not going to let you get both Undertaker and Shawn Michaels matches. So I'm going to take the Streak versus Career, another match that has a great build, with a great match that executed. This might be the best storyline match they've ever did in WWE WrestleMania history, with the build and the match that executed and everything that was on the line. The career, the streak, everything about this was just beautiful. The first match was the better in-ring match, but the second one by far had the better build. So I'm not going to let you snag both. I got to get one or the other, so I'll take the streak versus career for my second pick.
So for my second pick, I'm gonna stick on the Undertaker train. I'm gonna stay on that train. I'm gonna look at the last part of that 4-year story. End of an era. Undertaker, Triple H, and Shawn Michaels, special guest referee. Like, it's just, to me, I think it's the best Hell in a Cell match. I think the storytelling in that match, the drama, it was very brutal in the beginning. It's just everything came together perfectly. That was one of the few matches, because there weren't many matches in the Undertaker streak that I believed it was really over, but that was one of the few matches that they really like pulled me in and really made me believe like this was the end. So when you're able to do that, I think, and I don't even think I have to explain end of an era. It's amazing.
Another good match to take right there. I figured end of an era would be your next match to take. So for my third pick, I'm going to take The Rock versus Hollywood Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania 18. Probably the best crowd reaction for any match you ever heard. And one of the things that I always hated when people try to tax about this match for some odd reason is they say, well, if you put this match on mute, the match isn't that good. Why would anybody want to watch a wrestling match on mute? Wrestling is heavily based off crowd reactions. If you watch The Pandemic, you would understand that. Like, wrestling isn't like the NBA or the NFL where you can play the game and everything like that and still have good games and everything. I even say the NBA bubble was like some of the most competitive basketball they had in the NBA at that time without the crowd reaction because there was no home field advantage. But for the WWE, for professional wrestling, crowd reaction is heavily invested into the product. That's how you tell who's over, who's the babyface, who's the heel, who does the crowd like, who are they, rooting for, rooting against. That's how people are able to play off the audience. And Rock and Hogan did that very well. Mind you, going into this match, Hollywood Hulk Hogan was the heel. Rock was the babyface. They had to switch mid-match where Rock had to play the heel and Hogan had to play the face just based off that crowd reaction. And they had a masterful match. Is it the best in ring-wise? Maybe not. You could argue something. Maybe it could be better than that for sure. But that literally is one of the greatest professional wrestling matches you will ever watch. If you were there in person for that match that night in Toronto, you know you saw something special.
Good choice for third pick. For my third pick, I'm going to pick what I think is the best Rock match at WrestleMania. I'm going to pick what I still think is the best WrestleMania main event. I'm going to go ahead and pick The Rock versus Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania X7. I think it is the perfect way to cap off what was the climax of the Attitude Era, the climax of the biggest era at that point that we've ever seen in pro wrestling. I think having the two biggest stars at that point in the industry to close off that show. And I think the match itself, I think the story of that match gets understated a lot because a lot of people hate the heel turn. But I think the story throughout of Austin slowly losing his mind, unraveling, getting more and more desperate. Because like he told Rock beforehand, like, I need to beat you more than anything you can ever imagine. The fact that he went to the depths that he went to actually get that done because Rock would not stay down. He used that McMahon endorsed steel chair, I think on top of that, especially if you're watching it from home, like I do, the Jim Ross calls on commentary just adds to it even more. I feel like that elevated it way more than it already was. Because you can look at it because the crowd was still cheering Austin. You could look at it a little funny, but I feel like Jim Ross crashing out in a sense at the way he was, I think takes it to a whole nother level. And I think everything about it was perfect. I think the execution of the heel turn was done well. I think the timing is what was bad. But outside of that, I love it.
Good point right there. So for my next match, I'm going to take a match that had a pretty solid build, but this one is more relied on in-ring quality. I got to take Kurt Angle and Shawn Michaels, WrestleMania 21. Kurt Angle, Shawn Michaels, WrestleMania 21 is one of the best belt-to-belt in-ring matches you will ever see between two of the best professional wrestlers of all time. If you watch the match, you just know. I don't need to elaborate any further. It's one of the greatest matches you'll ever see.
I'm going to pick another match that I think in ring-wise, it delivered, maybe even exceeded expectations. But on top of that, I think the legacy and the importance of the match is too vital to not just WrestleMania, but to WWE as a whole. And there's a reason why it's the first match going in the WWE Hall of Fame, and it's my fourth pick. Bret Hart versus Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania 13. Um, I think the match itself, from them brawling around the arena, Austin having his leg worked on the entire match, which led to what happened afterwards. It's just everything leading to that double turn. The crowd reaction during that entire match was great. That was even, I think, to me, Vince McMahon's best calls on commentary, because, to be honest, not the best commentator, but I think he was doing his best work there. Like I mentioned, the double turn, not only it's the best executed double turn we've ever seen in wrestling history. I think it's the most important face turn as well, with Stone Cold, that being the launching point for him to basically become Stone Cold Steve Austin that we know him and love him as now. So, yeah, perfectly executed match for what it needs to do.
I'm going to stay on track with revolutionary matches. That match definitely was the pinnacle of the start of the Attitude Era for WWE to help them win the Monday Night Wars. Great point there. I'm going to take a match that changed the landscape of tag team wrestling, and you know what I'm talking about.
Damn it.
I'm going to take TLC 2, the Hardys, the Dudleys, and Edge and Christian. This match helped push the envelope to where tag team wrestling is today. When you think of TLC matches, you always think of this. Honestly, this might be the most iconic match at WrestleMania 17. You could say Rock and Austin and everything, and that was a great match. But when you think of iconic matches, they always show when Jeff Hardy got speared, from midair by Edge, in the promo packages. You think of the moments that it provided and what they created in that match and what it did at that time. You got to remember, this was 2001. So you hadn't seen nothing like this before in WWE. You've seen a lot of TLC matches then, but still you could argue there hasn't been a TLC match that has even come close to replicating what they did that night. So I'm going to take TLC 2 for my next pick.
You know what's annoying, audience? Malik keeps taking my next picks every time, bro. But hey, that's how a draft works, bro. Okay, look, I'm gonna stick on the match quality. I'm gonna look at a WrestleMania main event, one that obviously doesn't get talked about for good reason. It is the triple threat at WrestleMania 20: Chris Benoit, Shawn Michaels, Triple H. You can argue it's the greatest triple threat match in WWE history. I think everything worked really well in that match. I think the cathartic ending of, even though it's hard to watch now, Benoit winning the world title, I think in that MSG crowd was incredible. It's just a perfect triple threat match. You can argue the Backlash match is just as good, but it's really fucking good. Like, Shawn and Benoit, obviously they're two of the best ever in ring. Triple H absolutely held his own, which is why I don't understand the in-ring slander for him, but we can talk about that another day. It's just perfect. It's perfect.
So for my next pick, I've spoke highly about this match many times. I think it's a great match with also a great legendary build. To me, I still think it's one of the best WrestleMania main events ever. I'm taking once in a lifetime John Cena versus The Rock at WrestleMania 28. That build, a whole year ahead of time, we knew what the match and the main event was going to be for WrestleMania, having to wait in the anticipation of just thinking about the fantasy booking and what could happen, and then the build that we got, knowing that these two guys didn't like each other at that time, and The Rock, basically making jokes about Cena's mom, Rock calling Cena out for having his promo on his wrist, like crazy stuff. And then the match, I think the match was very, very good. Like, maybe it was unpredictable for certain people, not knowing who could win and what was going to happen, but I think it's one of the best WrestleMania main events when you count the build and the match itself. So I'm taking Rock and Cena 1.
All right. Looks like I'm going to be an old head for right now. I'm going to go for the very first classic, like true classic in-ring match at WrestleMania ever. Lost my brain. Macho Man Randy Savage versus Ricky Steamboat. IC title match, WrestleMania 3. It's just, I think it's timeless. I think it's a match that you perform that match now, I think it would still get the same amount of hype, maybe slightly less, but it's a really, really, really great match. And you weren't used to that in old school WWF golden era. It was a lot of the pomp and circumstance and the pageantry, and it was all the, storytelling. It was more about storytelling, but this was just like an anomaly when it came to WrestleManias, because before that it was a lot of duds, but that was the first one to really deliver from that standpoint. And I think there's a reason why it's still brought up today.
So my next pick is going to be an old school match as well. I told y'all beforehand I was going to take it if I can get it. I'm taking Hulk Hogan versus the Ultimate Warrior at WrestleMania 6. The Ultimate Challenge, one of the greatest WrestleMania main events of all time. I think it's Ultimate Warrior's best match. Some people might argue the Macho Man, Randy Savage at WrestleMania 7. I'm not going to debate that, but I think when you combine two guys who are known to have limited movesets in the ring, for them to go out there, the two biggest stars in the company fighting for the two most important championships in the company. And this is 1990. So this is around the time when they really didn't do babyface versus babyface, knowing how the audience was really split. These guys went out there and put on a masterpiece of a storyline match, bro. The build was great. And these guys went out there, didn't have to do much in the ring, but they told a great story and it executed for what it needed to do. I love the ending about the match where it seemed like Hogan was going to get the dub. Moves out of the way, hits the splash, the 1, 2, 3, the kick out, almost had him. Like, was that close? Like, beautiful, beautiful match. So I'm going to take Hogan versus Warrior from WrestleMania 6.
My next pick, I'm going to go for what I think is still the best opening match in WrestleMania history. I'm going to go for Bret Hart versus Owen Hart, brother versus brother. I think the one, like, great brother versus brother feud or match in WrestleMania history. We know what happened with Jimmy and Jay, but we don't have to talk about that. I think the story of Bret trying to keep it just to the wrestling. He wasn't trying to get all, over the top with it, but Owen he was egging him on, bro. I remember there was one point where Owen stomped on Bret's face and Bret just points up like, yo, chill the fuck out with that. I think just it's the Hart family. It's Bret Hart, it's Owen Hart. It was always going to be a great match. Obviously, they had great chemistry. And I love how Owen actually got the win, even though it went on for Bret to win the world title at the end of the night. I like how Owen got that shine. And I will say, I think Owen should have beat Bret for the world title at some point. But that's just me.
Should have won at SummerSlam.
Absolutely.
It is what it is. I'm going to take another match that had some violence to it. I got a lot of big main events on here. I got a lot of good in-ring quality, but I need to add some more violence to it. So I got TLC 2. I'm going to take what I think is the greatest hardcore match in WWE history. I'm going to take Edge versus Mick Foley at WrestleMania 22, which is also probably the most underrated WrestleMania of all time. So give me Edge and Foley, WrestleMania 22, maybe the best hardcore match WWE's ever had still to this day. The only other one I would put up there in that criteria would be Mick Foley versus Randy Orton at Backlash. But this right here, great match. These are type of matches that I wish WWE would bring back just a little bit more for special occasions. Like we had it last year with CM Punk and Drew in the Hell in a Cell. Very, very good. I'm hoping they can start to get back on that track, bringing back certain matches like this for, bigger storyline purposes.
All right. So you brought up a match that had a lot of brutality, a lot of, physicality, right? For my next pick, I'm going to pick a match where I think it was just people beating the shit out of each other. And it was just 17 minutes of straight up carnage. Gunther, Sheamus, Drew McIntyre, WrestleMania 39 Night 2. I think out of to me, 4 classics on that weekend, that was the best one. I think it did exactly what it needed to do. What we were expecting from that match was just physicality. And they gave us over the top, insane physicality, on top of insane athleticism from these 3 sneakily athletic guys. Like, it's exactly what the IC title should be. It should be just work rate in a way. And it should just be people wanting that title. It should be people performing like they want that title. And Drew McIntyre, Gunther, and Sheamus did just that. And it's exemplary of why Gunther's IC title reign was so special.
That was going to be my next pick. So that's a very good pick. But you know what? I have other triple threat matches I can bounce off of. You already took 2 really good triple threat matches, maybe the 2 best in WrestleMania history, debatable for some people. I'm going to take another triple threat match that I really enjoyed. WrestleMania 37, Roman Reigns versus Edge versus Daniel Bryan. I think this is Daniel Bryan's best WrestleMania triple threat match out of the 2 that he had personally, especially when you look at the storyline build. I think it was the right call now, looking back, to add Daniel Bryan to the story instead of having Edge versus Roman one-on-one. When you look at the aftermath of him stacking them both and then pinning them and what that meant for the Tribal Chief character and the Bloodline storyline moving forward afterwards. So very good match. Super unpredictable for me as well, knowing Daniel Bryan was leaving WWE. Could this be his last big win? Edge winning the Royal Rumble in WrestleMania that year was 10 years to the exact day that he had to retire and relinquish the world championship, thinking, okay, Edge could possibly get it. But this was to really establish Roman as the guy now, and people had accepted it finally. Like, yes, this is the Roman Reigns we've all been waiting for, and we've all wanted. He's the guy. We acknowledge the greatness. We see the vision now, and we saw what would happen, throughout the years of the Bloodline story. When it really peaked, people called it cinema.
I'm gonna pick something from that WrestleMania as well, from that weekend. The other main event. I want to pick Bianca Belair versus Sasha Banks, WrestleMania 37, Night 1. That was a match where, while the build wasn't very strong, I think we all know that, I expected a great match regardless. And going into it, watching that show, I didn't realize that was going to be the main event. And then when it came to be the main event, I'm like, oh, okay, the women are main eventing again. And then I realized the significance of why they're main eventing. The aspect of it being two black women for the first time. I think the two black women the first time in a world title match at WrestleMania. And matter of fact, them being the main event on top of that. Just there was so much history made in that one match, and they just lived up to that hype. Like they could have went out there and half-assed it and just lived off the fact that they were making so much history, but they went and put more to that. They laid on top of that. They made that moment mean something with an incredible match on top of it. And I think Bianca Belair winning that was a statement from WWE. Like, here's our new star for the division, and they've rode her momentum ever since. And I think well executed.
I'm gonna take another match that had a great impact, and what I still think is the best match of the stipulation match. I'm gonna take the first ever Money in the Bank at WrestleMania 21. First ever Money in the Bank, super important to WWE's history. I still think it's the best Money in the Bank they've ever done still to this day. And this really helped propel another guy into becoming one of the biggest heels of all time and one of the biggest legends they ever had, Edge, in winning. Everybody in this match shined. Everybody in this match had moments, spots that are still memorable to this day. I got to go with the Money in the Bank ladder match for my last pick.
Last pick, Malik runs it back again, takes my last pick. That was going to be my pick as well. I love that match. So I guess for my last pick, I'm gonna pick something that's close to me, close to my heart. A match that means something to me as a fan. And it is my favorite match of all time. Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns, plus Seth Rollins, WrestleMania 31. I think on top of the heights of the century, just that being the cherry on top, that being one of the, I think arguably the greatest swerve in WrestleMania history. You can make the argument for that. I think the match itself, before Seth comes in to cash in, I think gets very underappreciated.
Very good. They were having a very good match.
They were having an incredible match before that. I think Brock was in that point where fans still liked him, and then fans with Roman Reigns were very like iffy. But I feel like Roman Reigns lived up to that. He lived up to that moment. He lived up to that match. Brock Lesnar being the dominant champion he was. And I loved how they were trying to make Roman look tough. Like, he would get slapped, he'd start laughing. He'd get suplexed, he'd start laughing. And it wasn't like to the point where it was insufferable like it was at WrestleMania 34. They executed that well. And then Roman Reigns' babyface comeback is very good. I genuinely thought that was the end. When he Superman punched him 3 times, matter of fact, I think the third one he did, the best Superman punch Roman Reigns has ever done. And then those 2 spears, I'm like, this is it. And y'all know Brock Lesnar is one of the best kick-out artists ever, because it got so close. And then the F5 double down, and we know what happened from there, the heights of the century. But
okay, let's do 3 honorable mentions, 3 matches that we didn't get to take that we would have taken that we're not going to count a part of the list, but just 3 honorable mentions, and we'll go tit for tat. So I'll let you get to go first with this one. So what is an honorable mention of a match, one match that you didn't get to take but you want to show respect to?
Show respect to a match. I think we brought up ladder matches. I think this is one that really needs to be brought up. The first ever ladder match at WrestleMania. Razor Ramon versus Shawn Michaels. Obviously probably doesn't hold up as well as like other ladder matches, but when you have something new like that and those guys go out there and create that kind of a moment, there's nothing taken away. You can't take anything away from that.
One of my honorable mentions, a match that I really considered that I would have took if he took the Money in the Bank, Shawn Michaels, Ric Flair, WrestleMania 24. The career-threatening match one of the best storyline matches you will ever watch that evokes so much emotion out of you, bro. Like seeing Ric Flair cry because he knew it was over before the super kick even happened, just for some Shawn Michaels to hit the Sweet Chin music. Man, masterful stuff. So I got to give a shout out to that, man. And WrestleMania 24 is still one of the greatest WrestleManias of all time.
No doubt, and I'm actually going to take a match from WrestleMania 24 as well. The main event, Undertaker versus Edge. I think that is a very underappreciated main event. I think the storyline build going into that, how Edge was just constantly tormenting Undertaker, making his life hell, and then Undertaker getting his ultimate revenge in the main event. I think that was wonderful. My first WrestleMania as well. So
an honorable mention I want to throw out as well, a match that I actually brought up: Charlotte Flair versus Rhea Ripley. The build was atrocious. The build wasn't great, but bell to bell match wise, I think that's the greatest women's WrestleMania match of all time. That in ring match they had that day, man, like Gunther, Drew, and Sheamus was really good, but I might give the edge to Rhea and Charlotte a little bit, man. Like that match was really good. Like if the build had been better, it could have been the main event. But that match was just what they put on that day was very special. The only other match still that I would put above that as far as the greatest women's WWE match would still be TakeOver Brooklyn, Sasha and Bayley. I think it's going to be really hard for them to probably top that. But Charlotte and Rhea was very close, man. So I got to give an honorable mention and shout out to that match.
yeah, I'm going to give a shout out to another really good women's match that I think had a very good build on top of that because you don't really get that often. I got to give a shout out to Becky and Bianca, WrestleMania 38. To me, that was the match of the weekend. A lot of people would argue Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins. I think just everything about this match, the execution of it, the build of it, just everything was perfect for that match. And I think to me, that made Bianca look even more like a bigger star than she already was. Because I feel like people felt like she was cooked after the SummerSlam moment, but that cathartic win after coming back from that, I think took it over the top.
Last honorable mention I want to throw out there of a match that I really feel like is underrated. John Cena versus Triple H at WrestleMania 22, which I've spoke on many times. I think that's one of the most underrated WrestleMania main events of all time. Maybe the most underrated WrestleMania main event of all time. The crowd reaction was great, knowing that Triple H was coming off the reign of terror that the fans had named, but they were picking him over John Cena, who still hadn't really climbed the ladder to the higher echelon to be at the levels of a top guy. But this was the match to me that cemented John Cena as the guy of the company. If you go back the year before, 2005, Batista and Cena were really neck and neck throughout the entire year until Batista got injured, unfortunately. But once Batista got hurt, look at the gap between Batista and Cena's career after WrestleMania 22. John Cena went up here. Batista would climb up here too, but he never really got to the same stratosphere as far as being looked at as the guy. Again, you knew it was John Cena until pretty much Roman Reigns came around. So that to me is what solidified John Cena. Like, no, he's our guy. He's the face of the company. That's the dude from now on. All right, so to read off our list one last time and you all decide who had the better overall WrestleMania draft. For me, this is the draft that I chose, all matches in this order. My first pick was Roman versus Cody 2. I think it's the greatest WrestleMania main event of all time when you count the build plus the match in the moment. The second match I took was The Streak versus Career. Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker, WrestleMania 26. Probably one of still the best builds you will ever see for any match in general, with a great match that executed with so much at stake. The third match I took was WrestleMania 18, The Rock versus Hollywood Hulk Hogan, one of the greatest professional wrestling matches in WWE history. Fourth match I took was Kurt Angle versus Shawn Michaels, WrestleMania 21, one of the best bell-to-bell in-ring matches you will ever see. Fifth match I took was TLC 2, WrestleMania 17, one of the most iconic WrestleMania matches of all time, still to this day, one of the most important matches for tag team wrestling. The sixth match I took was Once in a Lifetime, which they ended up doing it again, but John Cena versus The Rock, WrestleMania 28, one of the best builds, and I still think one of the greatest WrestleMania matches of all time. And maybe the biggest match in WWE history when it comes to box office, still to this day. The seventh match I took was Hulk Hogan versus The Ultimate Warrior, WrestleMania 6. The Ultimate Challenge, two of the biggest superstars at that time frame fighting for the two biggest championships in the company, who put on a very masterful storytelling match. The next match I took was Edge versus Mick Foley, hardcore match, WrestleMania 22, arguably maybe the greatest hardcore match in WWE history. The next match I took, one of the best triple threat matches in WWE history, that meant so much for the future. Roman versus Edge versus Daniel Bryan, WrestleMania 37. Roman Reigns stacking both guys up really propelled him to the higher echelon to really submit him as the guy, which helped propel his character for the future of the Bloodline story for what it meant, which led to the Cody and Roman 2 match for WrestleMania 40. And the last match, I took the first ever Money in the Bank ladder match at WrestleMania 21, which I think is still the greatest Money in the Bank ladder match of all time, and one of now the most impactful, most important matches in WWE history.
Very good list there, but here's the ones I came back with. So to start my draft, I had Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker at WrestleMania 25. In my opinion, the best WWE match of all time. And then I had End of an Era, WrestleMania 28, Undertaker, Triple H, and Shawn Michaels, a special guest referee. I think it's the perfect conclusion to one of the greatest stories that WWE has ever told. Austin Rock, WrestleMania 17, to me, still the best WrestleMania main event. It's the climax of the biggest era in professional wrestling history. Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Bret Hart, WrestleMania 13. I think that is one of the most pivotal matches in WrestleMania history, on top of it just being really well executed. Chris Benoit versus Shawn Michaels versus Triple H, Triple Threat, WrestleMania 20. I think that is arguably the best triple threat match in WWE history, and has a very haunting but happy ending. So, Savage Steamboat, WrestleMania 3. I think it's the first classic WrestleMania match, so I had to show some love. Owen Hart versus Bret Hart, WrestleMania 10, to me, best opening match, WrestleMania history. Gunther, Sheamus, Drew, WrestleMania 39, just chaos, carnage. It's the only way I can really describe that match. Bianca versus Sasha, WrestleMania 37, just for the history, on top of it being an incredible match. And then Brock, Roman, Seth, WrestleMania 31, just for what it means to me as a fan. Like, it should have failed. It's a match that really should have been bad when you look at the build. The show itself should have been bad as well, but they did everything to really make that show great and that match great. So
good picks. Well, the audience will decide what they think is the better draft between the two of us. I like my matches. I like my list. I'm sure you feel the same way. So let us know in the comment section below, and let us know in a vote who you think has the best overall draft. We're going to have more collabs like this in the future as well. Make sure you guys subscribe to my channel, subscribe to his channel. Look out for the podcast, the No Name Wrestling Podcast, which we're both co-hosts of and that we do together. All respect, man. If you want to check out more videos, we'll pop up links right here below. You can check out more videos like this. If you want to check out the No Name Wrestling Podcast, you can look at the playlist right here, which will be also in the link in the description. And you click the box right here to check out every episode.
Yes, sir.